Turn now to CNN law enforcement analyst, retired FBI supervisory special agent James Galliano, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Robert Bianchi. I mean, our heads are all kind of spinning here as we're trying to make sense of this. Bob, one thing that really stood out to me is this attorney. So the attorney comes out last night and says, my client confessed to me he did this. Here's the deal. Sort of holds a press conference. Does that seem a little out of the ordinary?
It's a prosecutor's nightmare. Prosecutors want to keep the information, especially with respect to a co-defendant or a possible participant in a homicide, confidential so that the bad guys, if there are other bad guys to get, are not made aware early on that there's been a statement given by one of their co-conspirators. So there's no way, as you can tell, the prosecutor's being very quiet, and he's been previously very vocal about this case. He's quiet and he's zipping his lips for a reason. He doesn't want the data to get out, and there's the defense attorney getting it out.
And how does this too, James, when we hear that he has confessed to, and in the attorney's words, participation or commission in 4 murders, how does that change the investigation, if at all, if now there may be multiple people involved?
It wouldn't change the investigation. Okay. The investigators are still hyper-focused on the specific areas that they're tending to. The cellular analysis that's going on right now, obviously the physical evidence securing out at that 92-acre plot of land, that's not going to change at all. They're going to continue to do that while these negotiations are going on behind the scenes in the DA's office. And the DA appears to have taken the lead on this, which is expected. I got to agree with you. I thought it was the efficiency and the effectiveness of the police department in securing the confession. I expected that. But to have a defense attorney come out and the speed, the alacrity with which they secured a plea deal, doesn't happen that quickly.
Well, it's amazing, too, because we're talking about an attorney comes out and says, yeah, so the defense, what am I trying to say here? The death penalty is off the table. There aren't even charges. Yeah. Right now, he's been charged in relation to trying to sell a possibly stolen vehicle.
I've been doing homicide work for 26 years, and I have never seen, and getting to James' point, there is so much more investigative information that's needed. If the prosecutor has enough information to know that Dinardo participated and or committed, then he's got Dinardo in a box. He doesn't need to be offering and taking off the death penalty at this particular point in time. And we are hearing reports also that he did not cooperate necessarily, James, right, with the identification of where the bodies are or the identity of the conspirators. That's what we're hearing right now. If that's true, I'm asking myself as a prosecutor, what did the prosecutor plead the case out for, agree to plead the case out for so early when those details, important investigative details, and for the family to know where the bodies of those people are, why would they do it so early? Makes no sense.
And what I would say, too, is if I'm the investigator conducting that interview with Dinardo, I'm going to be ultra careful, because remember, this is a man that's been committed to a sanitarium before that has been described as schizophrenic. I'm going to be concerned about Mirandizing this man and whether or not that's going to stand. So I'm pretty sure they brought his attorney in early on to say, you've got a right to an attorney. If you want to waive that, you're going to do it with an attorney, present.
Well, there's only one possible explanation for this. First of all, I'm not worried about the mental health issues in this case because the conduct is very deliberate. Any psychologist is going to say it was goal-oriented behavior. I'm not worried about it. What the only reason as a prosecutor I would even consider making this deal right now is that if I didn't have enough evidence on Dinardo and or I felt I couldn't at all possibly get the other people that were involved in the case and I needed to move quick, I have to cut that deal. But, you know, what we understand is that they do have a lot of evidence against Dinardo, so it's hard to explain.
And the bottom line is, and you just brought this up, as we're talking about all of this, there are 4 families who are, we know at least one is grieving because their son, their loved one, has been identified as his remains being found. The fate of these other 3 men is honestly unknown. Whether or not this man confessed to 4 murders, we don't know where they are. We don't know if their remains are among those that have been found.
We used to take confessions from people in cases like this. We would actually, before we were willing to offer anything, make them literally go to the crime scenes themselves, show us where are the bodies. By the way, this is also important from an investigative point of view because James is an investigative kind of guy. I'm a prosecutor kind of guy because it also confirms the validity of the confession and shows that he was not suffering under mental illness when the confession was being given. So it's hard for me to explain why that wasn't done.
Where it's going to make it difficult for the investigators, if the details that have come out thus far that the bodies were ostensibly burned in a 55-gallon drum, that's going to make the identification of the remains much more difficult, as well as determining the mechanism of the homicide.
And we should point out at this point, CNN has not confirmed, what we know or do not know about how anybody was killed. But that is obviously one of the things that we're working to find out. And we may get more information on that again at 2 p.m. We're waiting on this press conference. It was supposed to be at 11 o'clock this morning. Let's hope it actually goes off at 2 because we have so many questions. Bob Bianchi, James Galliano, always appreciate you guys being with us. I know you'll be with us throughout the hour as well.